listening to Two Babies in a Business, a podcast about business, marketing, growth strategy, staff, clients, babies, and marriage. I'm Christina. This is Peter. We are the founders and leaders of CIPR Communications, and this is officially Series 5.
Exciting stuff. And we're going to be talking about topic that we've had a lot of internal conversations about recently here at CIPR Communications, which is all about PR. And so this whole series is going to be about PR. Today, we're going to introduce PR in 2021. And really, we wanted to bring this topic up because this is a world that's been changing right before our eyes. COVID has really impacted this world, but prior to COVID, this world has been changing already. And I feel like those changes got accelerated as a result of the pandemic. So it's a hairy topic. So we're going to dive right into a whole bunch of pieces of it. It's going to be good. And I think we're going to be doing something a little bit different for this series, in that we're going to be bringing on some media friends to talk and get their perspective. So stay tuned for that, because I think there'll be some great insights from some of our media contacts.
Yeah. It's interesting, kind of the world of public relations and how it's been changing. I mean, I've hung out in the world of public relations for a very long time. My entire career, really. I mean, where I started, I think I tell this story. If you've done media training with our team, I tell this story every single time. But like my first media interview, I was 8 years old, and it was at a Barbie show, at a Barbie convention. And the CBC reporter came over to me and asked me if, they thought, I don't know if they thought I was older than 8 or not, but they asked me, if I was concerned at all about, Barbie's image, and if potentially it, gave some negative connotations or unrealistic things that I couldn't live up to. So, me being the maybe smart ass or smart period person I am, my answer was around, do superheroes and action figures give boys a negative kind of self-worth or self-image? So, I mean, public relations has been something I think that's been in my blood for a really long time. So these conversations that we've had internally with a team, I think primarily Brad from our team and Kaylin, about PR changing, has been really interesting, because I think really gone are the days of, okay, here comes the journalist to a Barbie convention to try to find some hard-hitting news. I think, if that convention or Barbie show took place today, you'd be hard-pressed to find any media person covering that beat, just because of resourcing and shortages, but also this kind of sexiness around politics and that piece. But yeah, it definitely has changed. Peter, why don't you share with us, what is public relations?
Well, public relations is, I guess, the practice of deliberately relating with the public. So essentially, from a company standpoint, it's the strategies and tactics put into place to relate with the public. And so the public could include the media. It could include customers, and it could include employees, and it could include suppliers and other stakeholders. So it's really about being strategic about the way that your company is interacting with those various different stakeholders, and coming across in a way that's deliberate, and presenting the image and the communication that you would like to present, I guess, for lack of better terms. Now, specifically, I think a lot of people think about public relations in the view or in the lens of media relations, which is one aspect of PR, and probably the one we're going to be spending most time talking about during this series. But really, I mean, it's really any stakeholder out there, and you may want to have different messaging and different communications planned for different stakeholder groups, and you may want to share more or less with different stakeholder groups, depending on obviously what company you are and what you're trying to come across with.
Yeah, we're going to talk in this series about building a public relations strategy and plan, but I think it's so interesting when you come into a company or have a conversation with a client or for you a prospect where they go, okay, well, I need public relations. And to your point, I think people immediately go to media and
Right.
okay, let's write a press release, and how do we get the press release out? And I still think, and we're going to talk a lot about this, there's a place for those things, and it's very important, and it's part of the process. And it's something that you should include in your strategy. But I'll never forget, you and I were driving, I think it was the kids to school one morning, and there was this sign outside of a new store in our community that basically said, like, we're new to the community, hi. And it was very small, like a lawn sign outside. We were kind of stopped waiting for a train, and I actually like snapped a picture of the sign. And what I said was like, wow, this is great public relations. So this sign wasn't selling anything, it wasn't marketing, it was simply this like, hey, we're here, like we're a new brand in your neighborhood. Obviously it led to kind of me checking out what it was and asking some questions, and moving down the path that way of like it's a new neighbor, what's going on here? But I think there's a lot of things that people don't consider to be public relations, like a sign on your front lawn. And I think you go back to politics, where it's you and I come from this world, and the sign war is a big one. And you know that there are certain times in a campaign cycle where you want those signs to appear, because all of a sudden, oh wow, I look down my street and I see dozens and dozens of yellow signs, and so that must mean something, and maybe that triggers something in my head. But all of those things, yes, I think some people may think of them as marketing, but a lot of the time it's about, like you said, brand reputation, brand management, and really kind of bringing that full circle for people.
Yeah. And I like the sign example. And I often think about, like, when we do PR for clients, sometimes it's just a matter of, hey, have you written a letter to your local, provincial, and federal politician in your area, just to let them know that you exist? I know you have some stories about, you used to work for a politician's office, and there were some companies that sent frequent communications to the office and just let them know what's going on. And I know you tell a story about, your minister at the time would actually take that as information and share that with their colleagues and things like that, right? So there's many forms of public relations and many ways to sort of go about it, but really it comes down to just what impression do you want people to have about your business? That's, to your point, something you just said, is not necessarily marketing or selling anything specifically. It's more about the reputation of your business and the people of knowing about your brand and sort of having a positive impression of your brand. And the sign's a great example, right? It's like, any business that's new to a location should do a couple things that are very basic. Put out a nice sign saying, hey, we're in your community, we'd love to get to know you. Send out a little notice to their neighbors saying, hey, we're new to your community, come visit, we'd love to have a chat and just get to know you, right? All of that kind of stuff leads to a really great positive brand experience. And also just, the way that your company's employees are. And I'm going to use an example of, so one of my favorite, so I'm a cannabis consumer. I enjoy cannabis. And one of the stores that I enjoy going to is called 13th Floor Cannabis. And all of the bud tenders, all of the people that work at that cannabis store wear like a vest with like a black shirt on, and they have a very consistent look and feel. And that's how they decided to portray their brand. And it's got a real nice, it's got a real nice feel to it, and it makes you feel comfortable. And it's like, this is an elevated brand. They've done some things to elevate their brand, and just that little thing, like this is what they wear, is part of PR, whether people think about it that way or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's, to me, like, public relations is fundamentally telling your story. And, I think if you're a creative person listening to this, very well that the brand story is something very important. It's usually something that lives in a brand guideline. It's something that you hand off to different consultants once your brand guidelines are completed, and it starts to use words and evoke images and emotions that your brand should. Mm-hmm. And really, that's the tie to your public relations campaign and your communications campaign is telling your brand story, and it's telling your story. I think signage and cannabis made me think about our friend Ryan at Lake City at his Chestermere location. I love how he uses his front sign. So I remember driving by once, and it had Carol Baskin did it
Right.
right on there. And so like anyone in Chestermere driving by is going to see this sign and go, what? Wait. And so this is obviously when Tiger King was a big deal and everybody's talking about it. And, you know, by seeing that sign, like you get a sense of what Ryan and his team are all about.
Mm-hmm.
And if you follow them on social media, you get a sense of what they're all about. And I think, you know, public relations fundamentally really kind of hits all the same things marketing does. But as I try to explain it to clients and prospects, sometimes your marketing goals are often say that again, short term, right? They're about sales. They're about you know, building customer relationships quickly. They're about kind of that short term, money in the pocket, building building your brand, but kind of moving faster. Whereas to me, public relations is about your long game, right? Like it's about your long-term goals. You know, if you're a respected brand 20 years, if CIPR is a respected brand 20 years from now, well, then the business and the marketing is going to be fine because we're a respected brand and people know our story and know who we are. And I think that that's how you can separate. I mean, we've spent 4 series talking about the importance of marketing, and it's important. And I think public relations always has to, you know, complement the marketing piece, but your public relations should always have this further outlook, right? So whether that's building relationships with your neighbors, some may convert right away. Maybe I would have seen that sign in Bonus and, you know, went, oh, I need this, and immediately converted. But I saw it, I didn't immediately convert, but I know about that music store now. And I know that if one of our boys wants to get into music, I know there's a place locally to do that. And so maybe I'll convert in 2 years. Maybe I'll never convert, but I might tell someone else who's looking for music lessons that there's this place that I saw a sign for. So to me, that's kind of this fundamental difference. But I mean, both, I'm going to go so far as say both need each other to be able to, you know, amplify one another.
Well, and sort of since we're talking about PR in 2021, one of the things I'll say to that is that really the worlds of PR and marketing are coming closer and closer together and becoming one intertwined kind of set of services that, to your point, rely on each other, right? And so like I always think about it in terms of like, because we come from politics and our political backgrounds is like, you know, the air game and the ground game, right? So the air game is, you know, the media coverage and the policies being put out there and the, you know, the big picture, high level stuff. And then the ground game is the door knocking. So that's, you know, the ground game from a marketing perspective is the lead generation, specific lead generation stuff, like the, how do I get more leads into my business? How do I drive more sales? Whereas the air game is much more of the, like, how do I get some air cover in terms of like my brand and my brand's reputation? How do I build brand champions and all that kind of stuff, right? And then what I'll say too is that PR is both a proactive and a reactive type of strategy. And you know, if you're successful building brand champions for your business, or turn, you know, then if something bad happens to your business, there's an incident of any kind, those people are going to come to your defense because they know what your core qualities are. They know what your values are. They believe, they have alignment, and they're going to come to your defense. But if you don't have that sort of PR game happening, and something bad happens, then, you know, you sort of have nobody there to come to your defense. And I'm going to use another kind of example of one of our favorite companies, which is Rumble Boxing Studio. We're both active members of the Rumble clan. And they've done a great job of building extremely strong brand champions. So their language, the way they treat people, you know, it's all about we fight together, we're a clan, we're a this, like their whole language is all really kind of like focused on building that brand champion out of the client. And then they know that through that approach, the clients turn into their best brand ambassadors, and that in turn helps them with sales, right? So you know, and then to be consistent with that, so you have your PR. So their reputation that they've built, reputation specifically with their current client base. They create, this sense of community within their organization. And then to take it one step further, they take that PR that good brand reputation that they've created, and then they have things like, hey, if you bring a friend, they'll get a 30-minute session and you'll get some kind of credit or something like that, right? So then they have incentives for the brand champions to then basically help bring them in new clients and new leads. And that's a good example of how they've been able to take PR and lead generation and marketing and sort of bring them together into one kind of set of services, for lack of better terms, or set of kind of approaches.
That was quite the, I feel like, explanation there. The clan. I think they call it the tribe.
The tribe. Sorry, my language is wrong.
Both words, potentially questionable, but we won't get into that. No, it's true. So in the next episode, we're going to talk about creating a public relations strategy. So, I think we've done a good job at laying the foundation here of making listeners think about public relations in maybe ways they haven't. And it's public relations is about telling your story. It's about creating goodwill and favorable impressions of your brand online, traditionally done through public relations, I guess media relations, not public relations. And then, as we look at current 2021, it's more about, I would say, that real one-to-one relationship building and empowerment. And so whether that empowerment is your stakeholders or your clan or whatever,
or your tribe,
whatever else it might be. But no, it's interesting and it's changing. I think it can do a lot to help your marketing efforts, but it's a good kind of complementary piece to kind of build that long-term loyalty. So yeah, I'm looking forward to exploring it more with you.
I'll throw down one little last example or maybe definition or way to think about PR versus marketing. And I came across this, I don't know when, not too long ago, where somebody said that marketing is all about what you say about yourself, and PR is all about what you can get others to say about you. And I think that's a great way to put it, because marketing is all about, this is what we do, this is who we are, this is how we can help you. Whereas PR is really, creating this impression, this loyalty, this positive reputation, so that others can basically say, this is who they are, this is how they can help you, this is what, that kind of thing, right? So to me, that was very powerful. And I think that's a really great way to look at PR versus marketing.
Totally. All right. Well, join us for the rest of Series 5, kicking off now. And you're actually going to get a whole bunch of great guests in this series, former journalists, current journalists, and the like. So thank you.
Later.